The legacy of Abraham. Abraham was a great man who trusted God's call to follow his purpose and promise. He was even called a friend by God. Though he didn't see the future, he stepped out, believing God would bless all nations through his family. He waited for a child, faced trials, and learned that faith means trusting God's plan, even when it's hard. His story shows God's faithfulness. He turns small steps into big blessings. Chapter 1. Abram leaves home. Long before Abraham became the father of many nations, he was just Abram, a man living in a city called Ur. God told Abram to leave his home and go to a new land. Abram didn't know where God was taking him, but he trusted God anyway. He packed up everything and took his wife Sarai and nephew Lot with him. They traveled far away to a place called Canaan. When they got there, God made a special promise. This land will be yours, and your family will grow as big as all the stars in the sky. Even though Abram and Sarai didn't have any children yet, he believed God would keep his promise. What we learn. God wants us to trust him, even when we don't know what will happen next. When we obey God, he blesses us in wonderful ways. Chapter 2. Abram and the Famine. After Abram moved to his new home, there wasn't enough food anywhere. Everyone was very hungry. Abram was scared, so instead of trusting God, he went to Egypt for help. In Egypt, Abram was afraid that bad men might hurt him to take his beautiful wife Sarai. So he told a lie and said, "Sarai is my sister." The king of Egypt believed him and gave Abram many gifts. But God protected Sarai by making the king sick. When the king found out Abram had lied, he was very upset and told Abram to leave Egypt right away. Abram learned that lying and being afraid didn't help at all. He should have trusted God from the beginning. What we learn. When scary things happen, we should trust God instead of lying or making bad choices. God always takes care of us when we're honest. Chapter 3. Abram and Lot. Part ways. As Abram and his nephew Lot grew old, they had lots of animals, sheep, goats, and camels, but their helpers started fighting about where the animals could eat grass. There wasn't enough good land for everyone. Abram didn't want to fight with Lot. He said, "Let's not argue. You can choose the best land, and I'll take what's left." Lot picked the prettiest place near a city called Sodom. But Sodom was full of bad people who didn't love God. Abram stayed where God wanted him to be. Later, God destroyed the bad city, but Abram was safe. God told Abram, "All this land is yours forever, and your family will be huge, like all the dust on the ground." What we learn. Being kind and letting others go first makes God happy. When we trust God, he takes care of us. Chapter 4. God makes a covenant. One night, God came to Abram in a special dream. God said, "I will protect you and give you wonderful gifts." But Abram was sad because he and Sarai still didn't have any children. God took Abram outside and said, "Look up at all the stars in the sky. Can you count them all? Your family will be that big someday." Even though it seemed impossible, Abram believed God's promise. This made God very happy. Then God made a special promise called a covenant. He said, "I will give your family this land, and I will be your God forever." Abram was so amazed that he bowed down to worship God. Then God gave him a new name, Abraham, which means father of many people. What we learn. Faith means believing God's promises even when they seem impossible. When we trust God, he is pleased with us. Chapter 5. Abraham and Melkchisedec. One day, Abraham got terrible news. Bad kings had captured his nephew Lot and taken him far away, along with all his things. Abraham loved Lot like his own son and knew he had to help. Abraham quickly gathered 318 brave men who lived with him. They chased after the bad kings all night long. When the sun went down, Abraham and his men surprised the enemies and won the battle. They rescued Lot and brought back everything that was stolen. On the way home, something special happened. A good king named Melkchisedec came to meet Abraham. He was also a priest who loved God. He brought bread and wine to share and said, "God bless you, Abraham. God who made everything in heaven and earth is with you." Abraham was so thankful that he gave Melchizedek some of his treasure to honor God. Then another king tried to give Abraham lots of gold and silver, but Abraham said, "No, thank you. I only want God to take care of me, not riches from other people." Abraham shows us that when people we love are in trouble, God gives us courage to help them. And when good things happen, we should thank God first. What we learn, God makes us brave to help others and wants us to trust Him, not riches. Chapter 6. Hagar and Ishmael. Abraham's wife Sarai was very sad because she couldn't have a baby. She told Abraham to marry her helper Hagar so they could have a child. When Hagar was going to have a baby, she became proud and wasn't nice to Sarai anymore. This made Sarai upset, and Hagar got scared and ran away into the desert. But God saw Hagar all alone and sent an angel to help her. The angel said, "Go back home. Your baby boy will grow up to be the father of many people." Hagar named her son Ishmael, but God told Abraham that his special promise would come true through a baby that Sarai would have. God still had a wonderful plan, even though everyone made mistakes. What we learn: God sees us when we're sad or scared. He keeps His promises to us even when we make wrong choices. Psalm Chapter 7. God changes Abram's name. When Abram was 99 years old, that's really, really old, God came to talk to him again. God said, "I am the all-powerful God. Follow me and do what's right." Then God gave Abram and Sarai new names. Abram became Abraham, which means father of many people. Sarai became Sarah, which means princess. God promised, "You will have a baby boy named Isaac, and my special promises will be for him and his family forever." Abraham was so surprised that he laughed. He thought, "How can Sarah and I have a baby when we're so old?" But God said, "Nothing is too hard for me to do." What we learn: God can give us new names and new purposes. Nothing is impossible when God is helping us. Chapter 8. The Three Visitors. One very hot day, 3 men came to visit Abraham. Abraham was so happy to see them. He ran to them and bowed down, and welcomed them, and gave them cool water to drink and shade to rest in. Then he asked Sarah to make them a big, delicious meal. While they were eating, one of the visitors said something amazing. "Next year, Sarah will have a baby boy." Sarah was listening from inside the tent, and she laughed quietly to herself. She thought, "I'm way too old to have a baby." But God heard her laugh and asked, "Why did you laugh, Sarah? Is anything too hard for me to do?" 1 year later, just like God promised, baby Isaac was born. Sarah and Abraham were so happy. What we learn: nothing is too hard for God to do. When we wait for God's perfect time, He brings us great joy. Chapter 9. The Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. God told Abraham, "I have to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah because the people there are very bad and don't love me." Abraham was worried about his nephew Lot who lived there, so he asked God, "What if there are 50 good people in the city? Will you save it for them?" Abraham kept asking God, "What about 45 good people? Or 30, or 20, or even just 10? God was patient and said He would save the cities if there were even 10 good people there. But sadly, only Lot and his family loved God. Angels came to rescue them and said, "Run away fast and don't look behind you." As Lot's family ran to safety, God destroyed the bad cities with fire. What we learn. God is patient with us and always fair. He protects people who love Him, even when scary things happen. Chapter 10. The Test of Faith, Isaac's Sacrifice. God wanted to see how much Abraham trusted Him, so He gave Abraham a very hard test. God said, "Take your son Isaac to a mountain and give him to me as an offering." This was the hardest thing God had ever asked Abraham to do. But Abraham trusted God completely. He believed that even if something bad happened, God could make everything okay again. Abraham and Isaac walked up the mountain together. Isaac asked, "Dad, where is the animal for the offering?" Abraham said, "God will give us what we need." Just when Abraham was about to obey God, an angel called out, "Stop! Don't hurt Isaac." Then Abraham saw a sheep caught in some bushes nearby. God had provided exactly what they needed for the offering instead. What we learn. God sometimes tests our faith to make it stronger. He always takes care of us, even when we don't understand His plan. Chapter 11. Sarah dies and Isaac finds a wife. When Sarah was 127 years old, she died. Abraham was very sad and cried for his wife. He bought a special place to bury her because he believed God would give this land to his family forever, just like He promised. Later, Abraham wanted to find a good wife for his son Isaac. He sent his helper on a long trip to find the right person. The helper prayed, "God, please help me find a kind girl who will give water to my camels when I ask." When the helper got to the town, he met a young woman named Rebecca. She was so kind. When he asked for water, she not only gave him some, but also got water for all his camels too. The helper knew God had answered his prayer. Rebecca became Isaac's wife, and they were very happy together. What we learn. God answers our prayers in wonderful ways. When we're kind and helpful, God blesses us. Chapter 12. Abraham's Legacy. Abraham got married again and had more children, but he gave his most special things to Isaac. When Abraham was 175 years old, that's really old, he died peacefully with his family around him. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him right next to Sarah. Abraham's whole life showed everyone that trusting God's promises is the best way to live. God kept every single promise He made to Abraham. His family grew to become a huge nation with billions of people, just like God said it would. Best of all, many years later, Jesus, the Lamb of God, came from Isaac's family to save the whole world. All of God's wonderful promises to Abraham came true. What we learn. When we trust God our whole life, it makes a difference that lasts forever. God always keeps His promises to us, just like He did for Abraham.